All right, my friends, welcome, welcome. You have arrived on Thursday, January 19th at 5:30 p.m. at a winter 2022-23 disaster assistance update for small businesses. My name is Layla Roberts, and I'm director of the North Coast Small Business Development Center. And I am very grateful and very glad that joining us today are Ian Schatz from the Rotary District 5130. I think they can't see you waving, and I want to make sure that they can see you. So you'll figure it out. Ian is here to talk with us a little bit about the Rotary's response, as they always do with every disaster. Also with us is Pat Neighbors from our very own local Vocality Community Credit Union, which came out with a disaster response loan immediately and got their mobile van out so people can do banking wherever they happen to be immediately after the disaster, which is what a community financial institution does. Also with us is Nick Angeloff, who is president of the Rio del Scotia Chamber of Commerce. Cannot believe you made time to join us today, Nick. Thank you so much. I know you have another meeting happening at the same time, who's going to share with us a little bit about how things are going in our hardest hit town. And then last and certainly not least, probably most impactful, is my colleague Cynthia Cowell, who is with the Small Business Administration and has been doing the yeoman's work since, I guess, 2 Mondays ago now, of helping to make sure that the Disaster Response Center for the SBA loan applications process is running well, and they've been seeing a lot of people. So you know who's with us. If you are joining us and you feel like sharing a little bit about where you're coming from, that way we can direct our comments to you, or if you have a top of mind question that you would like to put in the chat, feel free to do it at any time. Okay, let's dive in. First things first, I would like to share just a little recap of where to find information. This is especially for those who are joining us watching the recording. That way you can follow some links, which I will put into all of the follow-up emails. So please don't worry about trying to write all this stuff down. You will have it in front of you, and you can always contact me if you need to. I'm going to have you contact our main email address, because that will go to the first person to answer, admin@northcoastsbdc.org. And I'll repeat that so you don't need to write it down. Okay. Oh, internet, thank you so much. It's refusing to allow me to share my screen. Let's see if I can force it. Nope, it's not working. It was working about 15 minutes ago. That's okay. I'm going to do this verbally because I've done this verbally a couple of times now. I could do it in my sleep. Here is the thing that I want you to know first and foremost. We have set up a web page that is a place where we're aggregating all of the disaster alerts and the resources for small businesses in particular that are impacted by the earthquakes and or the storms. And you'll find that at tinyurl/Humboldt Business Recovery 2023. And I'm going to put that into the chat for those of you who are interested enough to open that off to the side of your window. And on that webpage, you're going to find ways to access information about everything we're going to talk about today. I would suggest you bookmark the Humboldt County Disaster Resources homepage that is at the top of that page, because that's where you'll get most up-to-date data on who's impacted, what the county's doing, what the Office of Emergency Services wants everybody to know. In addition, we would love for you to make sure, if you have not already completed the Humboldt County Disaster Impact Form. The county is collecting people's reports. You can choose whether or not to share your contact information. But when you tell us how hard hit your business was, what physical damage there was, what economic losses you experienced, we all get to compile that information and make the case for more assistance from the federal government, the state, and other possible sources of help. So please do fill out that form if you haven't yet. And that's also at the top of Humboldt Business Recovery 2023, which is in the chat. For example, folks who completed the earthquake in economic injury form right away in December allowed us to make the case for the Small Business Administration, thank goodness, to make their own determination to declare a disaster and to show up en masse and staff that disaster assistance center in Fortuna right away. So your input really does make a difference. I'm going to touch briefly on a couple of bits and pieces that you may not know about and that are on that disaster page. But if you don't go there and scroll, you won't necessarily know. First of all, if you or one of your employees is a CalWorks or a CalFresh participant and you lost food or household items in the earthquake, there is an emergency benefit replacement program available and a link on that page that I referenced to apply. If your business experienced damage during the earthquake, you can turn to the county and ask for property tax relief. And there is a link for how to apply for that property tax relief on that page as well. And then finally, if you're an employer and you're thinking, oh God, I just one more thing, I've got to file my payroll reports to the Employment Development Department. I've got to pay my payroll taxes. I don't know how I'm going to get everything done. The Employment Development Department is willing to accept requests for late submission, both of the reports and of your payroll taxes. You just got to let them know that you were impacted. And then finally, Humboldt County and the Workforce Development Board offer something called the Rapid Response Program.
That was a complete waste of my time.
I understand. And
like somebody is not muted, and I'm going to use my power. Haha, I muted you. The Rapid Response Program, if you call on them, if you find that you have to lay off people permanently or temporarily, you can bring together representatives from a variety of agencies that will help and make sure that your employees have direct access to resources for folks who've been laid off. Employers have often found this very useful as a way to make sure that folks know we really do want to take care of you. Here is immediate assistance. The last, I'm looking at the questions in the chat here, by the way, so that we don't miss them. The last thing I want to offer is the most important to me. Please, please, I beg you, turn to us at the Small Business Development Center. If we can help you with one-to-one confidential business counseling to help you navigate through how you're going to respond to the crisis. We have experienced business advisors, and they are ready and willing to help you do things like run the numbers on what it's going to take for you to apply for and make use of one of the loans on offer. For example, if you need to do a cost benefit analysis, run the numbers on what it's going to take for you to constrict expenses and go for as many new sources of revenue as you can in your business recovery process. How can we help you reach new customers? How can we help you make sure that you are doing whatever you can, especially at the end of this dang pandemic, to stay open until you are able to get back to your good profit margins and your good cash flow. I am going to put, if you're not already a client of Small Business Development Center, it's very easy to sign up, northcoastsbdc.org/join, and it's in the chat. If you're already a client, which many, many people in the county are, you can also just contact us, and I'll put our contact information in the chat as well. And we will reconnect with you with your business advisor if you've forgotten who they are, or we can simply assign you a new one if you need a particular kind of help. That's enough from me. I would like to turn next to Nick Angela from the Rio Dell Scotia Chamber of Commerce. How are things going? What are you noticing? What do you want people to know?
Thank you.
very much. Appreciate the opportunity to speak, number one. I've stopped and run by all the businesses in town. Looks like there was a differential impact, and I'm at the Scotia Inn, so I'm sorry I'm in a public area, but looks like there's a differential impact based on location, as well as style of business, type of business. I can tell you the biggest losses occurred with Route 101, and these numbers are rough, but they've already spent over $100,000 repairing to open back up. And they're expecting to spend as much as another 125,000 in repairs that they know of already, and that's just to keep open. They're one of the larger employers in the Dell area, and so that was somewhat of a surprise. I knew they had a lot of inventory loss from shelves falling over, but this is all repairs to keep their business open. This doesn't include inventory loss, nor does it include revenue loss from downtime. All the businesses in town lost revenue during that time of the year. DJ's Burger Bar, we'd estimate their losses in the $20,000 to $25,000 range just for physical equipment. Another small, they employ various times of the year between 5 and 15 people part-time, but they're a big employer in town as well. Pizza Factory will be going out of business. They weren't in good shape because of the pandemic prior to the earthquake. This just put them over the edge. They're not going to be able to stay open, and no matter what I've suggested, Jim's just ready to retire. He's the ex-president of the chamber, and he's not going to be able to make up the money lost and combine debt and pay it back in a judicious manner with the way business has been going lately. Let me see, who else am I missing here? Shots did surprisingly well, the coffee shop down there. They lost probably $15,000 to $20,000 worth of machinery, but they did stay open as much as possible. In fact, they've been a shining star in our community. They own a lot across the street. That's where all our disaster recovery containers are. They donated that spot of land and said, do what you need to do. Let's get this going. And then they actually brought in a mobile unit to serve coffee to all the disaster responders, as well as the community. They did have business losses as well. Grunman's Sporting Goods, I venture to guess their losses are in the $50,000 range. I don't have a solid number from them yet, or even a really good estimate. They are just trying to get their community, get their business up and running again. Patrons, their estimate, another restaurant in town, their estimated losses were in the $30,000 range. We were able to connect them with Humboldt Maid, Nick, the good Nick. We were able to get them connected with him and provide some free meals to the community that they were paid for to keep their business moving. Same thing with DJ's Burger Bar and the Pizza Factory, by the way. One of the critical things that especially in a small community like this, that I can't emphasize enough is to get the food up and running, get the gas up and running, and get the pharmacies up and running. Those are the three key industries that need to get up and running after a disaster. And those are three key things that will also get your economy running again quickly. The free food coming in from the food trucks helped local businesses countywide. Incorporating when the restaurants in town were able to open up, incorporating them into that service help get money rolling back into this community. So the servers were able to make a wage, pay their rent, buy their groceries locally and in town. If I'm just thinking Letty's restaurant, it looks like their losses were in the neighborhood of $25,000, and they had to shut down for one of the most busiest times of their year. very small, family-owned restaurant. They'll survive this, but they could use some help.
Wow.
The going down the road, Creation suffered very little damage. Their fish tank moved over about 3 feet and they had to put it back. That's it. The grocery store is the big hit. CC Market, Guppreet, he lost in the neighborhood of 100 to 150,000, had to close down for several days. And then with the flooding, he owns a grocery store in Oric. He lost significant inventory there, as well as incurred costs to keep the power on. Had to rent a generator for over $500 a day, and it's a grocery store, and a small grocery store. The margins aren't good. And then to boot, he also owns Murphy's Market on Highway 36, and that road was closed by a slide. And he had just purchased it, and he's a huge benefactor to our community and a huge employer in our community. Every event he contributes to, and we just need to help that guy out as much as we can. He made a big investment in CC Market, kept it running, kept it local, and then reached out and expanded his business with Murphy's Market just before the earthquake. So he had risked it all, and now he's got significant damages in all 3 of his ownerships. So that's basically where we're at this point, that I've been able to tally up for you. I can't give enough credit to the Scotia Inn. Oh, Palco Pharmacy, very little damage, broke 1 glass. That's it. Scotia Inn, I got to give them kudos, immediately opened up rooms to people who were left homeless. And they are still have survivors here in the long term. These folks have Shots and Scotia Lodge have done unquestionably good work for this community. So we're holding tonight an event, a post-disaster trauma event held by CAL FIRE, or run by CAL FIRE, in their restaurant tonight, and helping them out with buying, I think it's 100 dinners from them through, again, Humboldt Made and Nick. So we're doing everything we can to get the economy running. We're putting these people in touch with the resources, SBDC and SBA, and we could use, especially with Letty's and Patrons and a couple of the other businesses, DJ's Burger Bar. We could certainly use some outreach to them and help with making sure those applications for mitigation funds or for loans are followed through on. The complexities of applications can preclude people from applying, from finishing their applications.
Glad you're saying that, because when we get to it, I'm sure Cynthia will talk a little bit about how SBA is working to make that as easy as possible. I'm going to guess Pat is as well. Listen, Nick, I'm listening to this rundown of impacted businesses, of people who are running enterprises critical to a small community, and I'm wondering who the heck wasn't impacted. So if you don't mind, I have put in as appreciation links to 2 organizations that did really great community-driven response in Rio Dell and elsewhere, which is the Humboldt COAD, Community Organizations Active in Disaster, and Humboldt Made. But I really want to direct people's attention to the Rio Dell Scotia Chamber website, because that's where you're going to find a list of businesses who could really use our business right now as they're trying to recover from what for them has been a multiple and complex disaster, for the rest of us as well, but really, really not the same scale as in Rio Dell. Thank you, Nick. Is there another call to action you want to offer before we pop over to Ian? Anything you want people to do?
Yeah. As you said, come over to the Scotia Lodge when they have rooms open. Use them this summer. Benefit these guys. Stop by Shots in Rio Dell. come in and buy some food at our restaurants. That's the best you can do for us right now. Support these businesses. On the housing end, we're working on that end too, and to get your contractors, get your estimators out. Do what you can. Make sure that they're advertising directly in Dell. People don't know what to do, who to reach. They're not used to this. They're traumatized. So I have a red tag on my house. What do I need to do to fix it? It's a pretty common question, and it's sort of surprising. Well, you call a contractor or engineer and you get an assessment done and an estimate done, but the trauma is precluding people from people who usually don't do these things are being precluded because of the trauma from starting.
Yeah.
Some help there would be good.
And you
Yellow
know,
tagged houses especially as well. So.
One of the things that I'm going to clarify, because we had at least one question about this. While this webinar is focused on businesses in particular, I did post in the chat thread a link to the Humboldt Office of Emergency Services website and both phone numbers during business hours and after hours. And also, I know that Senator McGuire and Assemblymember Wood are going to have another town hall, if you missed last Thursday's, probably in a week or two, in which they're going to go in more depth into the recovery needs for residents, both homeowners and renters. So I know that we're not talking about that today, but that is something that is coming up, and we will push that out when we get it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay, and I'm going to have to apologize and get off to my next event. I am so sorry, guys. I do have a responsibility here as well, though.
Yeah, no, you were more than generous. Thank you, Nick.
Bye.
Good luck. All right, my friends, I'm keeping an eye on the chat. If you are just joining us, we are recording the briefings portion of this webinar, and then we're going to stop recording and open up the room to any questions you might have so that you can get answers that aren't recorded. And also, as you think of a question when someone's talking, please go ahead and pop it in the chat. And do not feel obliged to remember everything that I'm saying or all the resources that people are listing. We're going to compile them in a follow-up email and get that out to everybody along with the recording. All right, Rotary stepped up as they always do. Ian, what you got?
Thank you, Layla. I appreciate the opportunity to share. Our program is about as simple as it can possibly be, and that's for the very reasons that he was just speaking of, that people are traumatized, they don't know where to start, and while it's not a huge grant, it is one of the simplest things you'll ever apply for as a small business. There's a one-page, super simple application online. I'm going to put that in the chat here. These grants may take you 5 minutes to apply for. It's a very straightforward name, address of business, name of business, best phone number to reach you by, email, and a brief description of what the losses are. These grants are for up to $2,000. They're typically funded within 7 to 14 days of your application being received. There's one site visit to, talk with you and take a look at, yep, that's a mess, that's broken. And once that's done, we submit a request for the check and the funding comes. There's two qualifiers. It can be used specifically to fund quake-caused damages. Unfortunately, this fund doesn't cover storm-related damages, but earthquake-caused damages to inventory, business supplies, business tools, and business facilities. Unfortunately, this particular 501c3 fund cannot cover payroll, wages, or loss of income. But there's expenses coming at people from everywhere. I visited a farm where they had lost about $29,000 in equipment damages. Some computers that milk cows and a grain silo that fell over and was crunched. And I looked at him in the face. I said, $2,000 isn't enough, is it? And he kind of looked at me and said, no, but it's going to fix this thing right here. And that's going to help me keep this going. So please don't hesitate to reach out, even when the amount is relatively small in the scale of the losses that people have experienced. $2,000 is $2,000. We've had people ask for as little as $100 to cover a space heater that was damaged that helps them in their painting business. Somebody lost a couple of storage boxes for their quilting business and needed those replaced so they could keep their supplies neat and organized. So don't think it's too small to ask. There's funds available. So far we have approved and funded 17,000 of the initial $20,000 allotment. There's about 11,000 in the queue, and they will all be funded. Keep them coming in. We've got donations coming in to help us keep this funded. And the link is right there, rotary5130.org. Super simple, right on the homepage, one button to click, and the application's right there. Any questions or curiosities?
It's one of the simplest applications I've seen, and we've seen a lot over the course of the pandemic for sure. But that is because folks who are part of Rotary are also themselves business owners, and they know nobody has the mental space or the time to waste. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to reinforce something Nick said. So first of all, yes, if you've got questions, Ian, put your questions in the chat and we'll get to them after we stop recording. And also consider that the Rotary grant is part of your recovery capital stack. $2,000 can go a long way. All right, my friends, let's move on to our very own Vocality Community Credit Union. Pat, the president and CEO, has graciously made time at the end of a very long day to join us and share a little bit about what they are offering and how they want you to make use of it.
Thanks, Layla. First of all, I appreciate the invitation to talk with the group this evening. And it's really an honor to be working alongside the folks who are your other panelists tonight. And I'm going to piggyback on Ian's comment and your reference. This literally is a stack process. And I love the way that you've processed this in easiest to most complicated, which also means probably least availability or least impact. And I mean that in a good way. We're all impactful, I know, but hopefully the most impactful when we get into discussing things with the SBA and as you recap the information that the SBDC can provide to our small business owners. Vocality Community Credit Union, we have our headquarters in Garberville. However, our field of membership expands into all of Humboldt County, as well as into Mendocino and Trinity counties and Lake County. I bring that up because we have members or potential members in every one of those particular areas that may have been impacted by either the earthquakes or the floods and storms. The credit union can help you if you're in any of the counties that we serve. So Sonoma, Mendocino, Lake, Trinity, and Humboldt. If you've been affected in any of those counties as through the storm or through the earthquakes, we can assist. And while we're doing a much smaller version of loans available to folks, we're pleased to be able to do it. We were very pleased to get our Nomad in place the evening as things happened. It was pretty crazy to see. I'm glad we were able to set up. I'm glad we were able to provide cash services to the folks who needed immediate emergency funds. We think about first responders and we don't always think about our bank or credit union. Yet what I've experienced in my 38 years of financial institution experience is that when emergencies and disasters happen, people move. They physically have to get up and move from where they are. That means they have a need for cash. You may have looked at your emergency information through the systems and seen something that talks about a go bag. They also ask you to include some cash in your go bag to make sure that you have availability of funds as you move around. We were pleased to be able to put the Nomad in Fortuna. We were grateful to the city managers who allowed us to do that. And we set up, and if you had a debit card or a credit card, you could get cash and go over to the hardware store who was only accepting cash while all the power was out, and be able to get things that could hopefully fix your home and protect your home and your family as things were getting very interesting that first day and the few days following. one of the things that the credit union does. We're a community development credit union, and we believe it's part of our charter, if you will, our duty to help support our local communities as part of our service to our membership. We have a small loan availability for folks and also a short term. So if you are in need of many of the small types of things that Ian is mentioning, and you realize you've gotten his $2,000 grant, but you still have some need, the credit union has 0% interest for up to a year. The maximum loan I currently have for that is $10,000. Now, the credit union has many other loans that we could potentially help you with, and we're happy to look at that for you, work with you on those types of things. But we wanted to get this what we hope is an impactful opportunity out for folks. It is going to cost you. I have to have the money back. I do need payments, but we're not charging any interest on it. And I think that's one of the most important things we can do is say, we're willing to take it over time. We don't need anything from you in return except timely repayment and give you a year to do it. So we've had several folks take advantage of that, whether they are small businesses or individuals. I did notice the question in the chat. We are a community credit union. We do serve small businesses, and we do serve our individual homeowners and folk renters. If you live or work in the county, you're eligible for membership. We are required to fund only to members. However, it's very easy to be a member of the credit union. It doesn't take much time, doesn't take much effort. It takes very little money to be a member of the credit union, and we offer a lot of value and benefits to you. We want to be partners, and we are so grateful for SBDC to put us in the docket to help folks understand the plethora of potential resources available to you. We cannot be the answer to everybody. We can be the answer to some, and we want to help you stack your recovery capital, and we can help you do that. Credit union has, thank you very much for putting the credit union's website up on the chat. Credit union has a landing site for you. There is a place to put your information. We will get back to you and be happy to help you with that application. Our application isn't quite as easy as Ian's, but it's pretty simple, and we can get you rolling with that. If you want to call and talk to somebody, credit union number is 707-923-2012. You will get the service center. Any one of those folks can get you aimed at one of our loan officers to assist you and find out if we can help you. And if you need a loan longer than that 1 year, we can work around, get you a 0% loan and figure out how we take you from there. We're just pleased to be part of the community, and we want to do what we can to help our friends and neighbors. So I'm going to pause at that and recognize that there may be questions about that. Yeah, oh, question in the chat. How about people with no or bad credit? We help people who need help. If you have no credit, we can help you with that. If you have bad credit, we'll figure out how we help you with that. And if we can't help you, we'll make sure we aim you at somebody who can try to assist you otherwise. Most important is reach out. If it's not us, we'll try to help you find somebody who can. And I think that's one of the messages that Liz has been spending all of her time working on is there's a network of us who are here to find ways to help you. And it's going to be a long-term struggle. So let's all do our best to hunker down and know that we're in a marathon. This is not a sprint. And if one resource doesn't work for you, recognize that we all have the network, and we will find somebody to aim you at if it's not us. And Pat will pause right there. Thank you, Layla.
Thank you so much, Pat. I want to reinforce something that you said. First of all, I don't think everybody knows that the Nomad is this gorgeous mobile banking truck that's been appearing in various communities, landing and offering people access to their cash when they didn't think they could get it. So I love it. I love the purple. And also to reinforce that in last Thursday's town hall, Senator McGuire and Assemblymember Wood did reinforce that we are moving out of the immediate disaster response, and we are now in a long-term recovery that is going to take months, at least months. both financially and physically to recover from. And so when we're talking about long-term recovery as well as immediate recovery, and financial resources with real impact from anywhere from 200,000 to 2 million, that is when we turn to the Small Business Administration. So Cynthia, please take us away. Oh, I think
now I'm speaking. I'm so used to being mute. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you having us all on here and putting this all together. I know the SBDC has been working very hard to keep the community aware of everything that's available, even if you're not a business. And I know it can be frustrating for a homeowner or renter who needs help and they think everything is geared towards business, but right now, everybody needs help, not just the businesses, not just the homeowners. If the businesses leave town because they can't recover, the homeowners and renters are going to follow. So we want to help everybody all at once as quickly as we can. SBA offers low interest government loans to businesses of all sizes, to private nonprofit organizations, including churches, and then also for homeowners and renters. We can lend a homeowner up to $200,000 for uncompensated losses. That means if you get a loan from your bank, or if you get a donation to work on your house, we can't duplicate what you already have, but we'll work with you to make sure that there is no duplication. For homeowners and renters, we can lend up to $40,000, and that's to help with personal property repair and replacement. That's includes cars. It's anything a tenant or a homeowner would take when they move out of their home. For businesses, we offer up to $2 million for physical and economic losses to your business. You may or may not have had any physical damage, but if people aren't coming in because the bridge is closed, you're not going to be getting any business. And I know Nick was talking about supporting the local businesses. It's very important that we go ahead and get as much as we can from our local businesses. We have a disaster loan outreach center set up in Roner Park in Fortuna right now. That is to help homeowners, renters, and businesses with completing their loan applications, answering your questions, and then once you're approved, we'll help you sign your documents. We are only going to be there until next Friday, the 27th at 4:30. So come on in. We're there from 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. And we have computers set up so that if you lost your computer, or if you just feel like you're going to get stuck, or you need someone to walk you through the application, we're there to help. You need to apply by March 6th of 2023 for physical damage to your home or business. And then economic injury to a business is the application deadline is October 4th of 2023. If you don't live in Humboldt County, but you live in Del Norte, Mendocino, Siskiyou, and Trinity counties, or your business are in any of those contiguous counties, we can also help. The 4 outlying counties are also included in this declaration. If you can't get into the Disaster Recovery Center, you can apply online. You can go to disasterloanassistance.sba.gov, or if you need a paper application, your computer at home isn't working and you don't think you can make it in between 8 and 4:30 to the Disaster Loan Outreach Center, you can contact us by email at disastercustomerservice@sba.gov, or you can call us at 800-659-2955. We can mail you a paper application or answer your questions. If you're hung up on your application, we can help you that way too. So I just want to stress that it's very, very important that everyone get their applications in on time. The deadline is coming up. It's March 8th. People think, well, I still got a couple of months. Well, those couple of months, as you know, go very, very quickly. The Disaster Loan Outreach Center is located in Roner Park at 7 Park Street. That's in between the office and the skating rink at Roner Park. And we are there, like I said, from 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. And we'll be there until January 27th. So with that, I just want to stress that it's very important that we go ahead, and Aldenette, I will go ahead and get that information. I can't type and talk at the same time. It just doesn't work for me.
Don't worry about it. I did it for you. It's all in there.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'll remain on the line if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. We are going to stop recording shortly so that folks can vocalize their questions or put them in the chat. Please do put them in the chat at your convenience. I am going to pause though before we stop recording and channel some of the questions that we've been hearing at our office at the Small Business Development Center to you, Cynthia, in case that's useful to others while we're still recording. So one of those is, as people apply, do you have any sense of what kind of turnaround time there might be from a complete and accurate application to actual payout?
Yes, there is. Every application is judged on its own merits. So some of them may take longer. Generally within 3 weeks, we can give you a decision and get the funds to you within 5 days of that decision. So far to date, we've approved 28 home loans in Humboldt County for a total of $864,900. And I anticipate we're going to have some business loans coming approved very soon. It's just that some business loans are a little more complicated than a home loan is.
Yeah.
So yeah, generally about 3 weeks for a home loan, maybe, but usually faster than that. It's very important that you go ahead and get your application in as soon as possible, because our applications are all processed on a first come, first served basis. And if you've been watching the news, there's a lot going on in the state of California right now. There are going to be a lot of applications coming in. So go ahead and get your application in as quickly as you can. And the applications are all processed in our processing and disbursement center in Fort Worth, Texas. They're finishing up with the Hurricane Ian applications. And now we're starting on the winter storms in California, and the earthquake just fits right in there. So be sure to get your application in as quickly as you can.
Thank you, Cynthia. Yes, and so let's reaffirm something. These small business administration loans are available for business owners, homeowners, renters, and certain
Private nonprofits, yes, including churches. I know a lot of people.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of people wonder, is my church eligible? Yes, you are. And
You
like I said,
fudging that answer last week, didn't you? Yes.
yeah. Yes. Well, we try to help as many people as we can, of course, but churches are eligible both for physical damage. I'm not sure about economic injury. I need to look at that again, but they are eligible for physical damage. And we cannot, pardon me?
Sorry, we have had that question, but you were saying.
Yes. Well, and I lost it again. I will remember it soon. It's kind of late in the day after a very busy week, and it's only Thursday.
Yeah,
so
we've already done 2 city council meetings this week.
Yes.
Just to reaffirm, anybody who needs to explore the Small Business Administration application, obviously you can go in person to their disaster response center in Roner Park in Fortuna. Information about that is in the chat, but information about the online application and the toll-free number are also in the chat, and those are the same numbers that you would use whether you're a business owner or not applying as a business owner, because that was a question we just saw.
Oh, I
In
remember.
addition, everybody who has registered for this webinar, there was another question in the chat. Everyone who's registered is going to get the follow-up email that contains all of these links. So don't feel like you need to scramble to save things. Cynthia.
So one of the things that we were talking about is stacking your help. And again, SBA cannot duplicate your recoveries. I would suggest first that everybody go ahead and file their insurance claim. That's money you've already paid for. So feel free to use that. And then all the community help that you are eligible to, go ahead and apply for that, and the SBA loans. And we'll work with you to make sure that there is no duplication of benefits. And you know, it may be that you had to get a short-term loan from your local bank. We may be able to help you pay that off. If you have a mortgage on your home or business, we can help as far as collateral. We only require collateral for a loan over $25,000, and we will go in behind your other lien holders. There are mitigation funds available, so maybe you can do something to strap the house together better. So next time there's an earthquake, and we're in Humboldt County, we do get earthquakes here. There will be another earthquake, and you may be able to strengthen your building for that. And with that, I will be quiet now.
No, but there's a lot to it. One of those things Cynthia and I talked about is about getting your application in ASAP. If you want to sit down with a small business development center advisor in Eureka instead, we can help you with that. Our information is in the chat and we'll email it to you. I would encourage you, if you can drive down to Fortuna, you're going to sit with a small business administration specialist to help you apply. If you haven't filed your taxes yet, and you didn't file your taxes last year, apply anyway. That was a barrier for a lot of people, but the Small Business Administration will accept your application, put it on a wait list, and wait until you get caught up with your tax filings. And they're willing to reopen it once that's done. But as long as you get in the queue, you have options, is what I've been trying to encourage people to understand.
You have 90 days to, if we withdraw your application from processing because of your taxes, well, in most instances, no matter what, you have 90 days to resolve that situation, whatever the reason was. Maybe you had a thing on your credit that you shouldn't have had on your credit or something like that. You may be able to resolve that. But your taxes are the main reason why a person might have their application withdrawn, and you have 90 days to get your taxes in and do them. One of the things that it's a rough reality about disasters, but you may be able to expand your business. Maybe you're a contractor or something like that. So if you need help and counseling on how to build your business, call Layla. Or Liana, sorry, but call the SBDC, speak to them, and they can give you all kinds of advice. And she won't get a nervous twitch like she has right now.
Yeah, sorry about my video. I will post more information about that shortly. And thank you so much for the plug. I will pay you your little much in a moment. So let us stop being talking heads at you. If you know how to unmute, please unmute yourself as soon as I've stopped recording. If you want to post a question in the chat instead, that is perfectly fine. But thank you very much for those who are listening to the recording. You should have access to all the information we've posted and described verbally. And we really hope that if you don't know where to turn, the one place that you can go online for self-service at any time of day is the short link, tinyurl.com/Humboldt Disaster Assistance 2023. And if you just want to call our offices, 707-445-9720, we'll figure out how to direct you to the Rotary, to Small Business Administration, Vocality, or anywhere else. All right, I'm going to stop recording.